I think it would be clear by now that you are in the hard reading module. And generally these graph table questions on the hard module are a little bit more complex. On the easy one, usually you can just like read the numbers in the chart and it's you know, like just, okay, what number is bigger than another? I think it's gonna be more intense. So let's just start by reading the passage. We need to support the student's argument. So let's see what the student's argument is. Let's just really focus on this. Native to Latin America, the cane toad was introduced to Australia in the 1930s. In recent decades, tadpoles in the Australian population have been shown to consume eggs of their own species. A 2022 study showed that when presented with cane toad eggs, as well as eggs of native Australian amphibians, cane toad tadpoles disproportionately consumed eggs of their own species. So they eat their own. This behavior results from their attraction to I don't know what that is. A chemical produced by the eggs of cane toads, but not by the eggs of native amphibians. However, using data from this study, a student wishes to argue that the presence of this thing doesn't entirely explain the cane toad tadpole's preference for certain eggs over another. So this thing doesn't entirely explain the tadpole eating, right? So, okay. By the way, cane toad tadpole is very hard to say. All right, let's take a look here at these choices. I got no idea what's going on. A, the tadpoles consumed a higher percentage of the striped burrowing frog eggs than they did of the eggs of the dainty green tree frog. Striped burrowing frog is 10%, and the dainty green tree frog is 1. So that's true. Right now, I don't know if that's the answer, but it's certainly true. Let's keep going. I guess, yeah, because, well, neither of them contain this substance. So obviously they like the striped burrowing frog more for some reason beyond that substance. So that's kind of what the student is saying. So this, I don't know, this seems right. Let's keep going. B, the tadpoles left a certain percentage of the eggs of each of the 5 species unharmed, thus ultimately allowing them to hatch. But what does it have to do with being attracted to this chemical? It has nothing to do with like what they're eating, right? That they're not eating other things, right? So don't flip it. It's about why do the cane toad tadpoles eat a certain other tadpole or a certain other egg? If we're not eating it, then I don't know, that doesn't seem to matter. C, the tadpoles consumed a lower percentage of the short-footed frog eggs than they did of the eggs of their own species. That is also true. Short-footed frog is 7, right? And their own species is 90. But remember, that's what we would expect because the cane toad has this weird chemical, but the other thing doesn't, right? So the main hypothesis is they're attracted to that chemical that's tasty. But then this particular student is saying, well, that's not the whole story, right? So this difference between these two is really just about the chemical. So this isn't supporting the student's point of view. It's supporting the normal, regular point of view that the student is kind of taking issue with. So that also doesn't match, doesn't support the student specifically. D, the tadpoles consumed the same percentage of the dainty green tree frog eggs as they did of the little red tree frog eggs. Well, that's also true, but they both have the same properties. They're not native, or they are native to Australia, and they don't contain this chemical. So just because they're the same, that I don't know anything, right? There's other ones that also fit that same description, but those have different numbers. So it's got to be A, and it makes sense, right? So basically, yeah, I think I kind of already said this, but just to reiterate, the student is saying that this particular chemical is not enough to justify or understand why these cane toad tadpoles are eating certain eggs, right? And so we have the striped burrowing frog and the dainty green tree frog. Both of them do not have this chemical. So why then are 10% of the striped burrowing frog eggs getting eaten, but only 1% of the dainty green tree frog? If neither of them have this chemical, there must be something else that makes the striped burrowing frog eggs very, very tasty. And that's kind of just the student's point. He's not saying what that other chemical might be or what the reason is. He's just saying that this particular chemical is not enough to understand it completely. And so yes, these numbers kind of suggest that. This is a weird one. It's kind of weird that it is leaving it hanging. We're not really getting a conclusion from the data. We're more just kind of like questioning a conclusion. That's an unusual thing, but notice we're kind of using both the data and the passage to kind of narrow ourselves down. So just try to really make sure you notice what the student's claim is here. If you don't, then this is just going to be a mess. So pay attention to the question because they're going to tell you what they want, and then we can find that same kind of part of the passage is the one that's most important to think about.